Why the StarCraft community kills every new RTS game. Okay, no, I have not seen this. Let's have a look. So, the title of the video claims that the StarCraft community kills every new RTS game. Look, we've got standards, okay? Like, if you've been dating a 10 for like a decade, right? It's gonna be really hard if, you know, things go south to then start dating a 4 or a 5. You know what I mean? Anyways.
RTS, a glorious genre of esports which gave birth to competitive gaming as we know it. Do you like playing games with friends and having fun? Well, you're wrong. That's some bullshit. Play an RTS game where you'll spam thousands of keys, study hundreds of builds, and probably break tens of keyboards along the way.
These are all very old clips. This is from QXC. He got a little bit angry on stream a little while ago. This is Lucira, who was known for very high APM. Now, I just want to emphasize that this little clip of Lucira playing at like 600 APM is him making drones in the early game.
Don't even think about buying a ticket to Seoul, you casual. You think 8-hour shifts are long? Try 16 hours of 300 actions per minute with no breaks. And maybe then you could be up there
True.
with Koreans and get a bad case of carpal tunnel. So long as you don't need literal surgery for your wrists that have now wasted away to bone, you bet get your ass back in front of your computer and hit the goddamn race button.
Look, he's not wrong. StarCraft is a properly hardcore game, okay? StarCraft is great if you want to play it casually with co-op, with the custom campaigns, with the regular campaigns, with the arcade and all that. But if you want to commit to playing 1v1, it's a hardcore game. Yeah, it is not a game that you can just, after a long day of work, queue up like 3 ladder games in. Like, that is not the type of game that StarCraft is. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but let's listen to what this guy actually has to say.
Okay, I will admit that might have been a little bit exaggerated. But I didn't say anything that hasn't actually happened before. Kespa houses were notorious for their long hours. It's not uncommon for pros to be afflicted with painful injuries. And as for the keyboards, well, let's just say their fate is player dependent.
I don't think a lot of people have actually broken keyboards playing StarCraft. Well, not more so than with other games, but carry on.
Whether it be League of Legends players all wish your mom has cancer, Smash players have never stepped in a shower their entire lives, or World of Warcraft players are all fat basement-dwelling neats.
Wait, is he saying things? Wait, that's not the case. That doesn't go with my experiences of, you know, guys playing. Anyways.
Obviously, these don't apply to the majority of players. To some extent, these stereotypes do have a grain of truth in them. The definition of a stereotype is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea.
Yeah, I know what a stereotype is.
Type of person or thing. Anyone in their own game community may hold stereotypes about other communities, or even communities within their own game.
This is very true, actually. Okay, I didn't know where the stereotype thing was gonna go, but I like this little graph. Yes. I do think that a lot of people do have stereotypes for RTS players in particular. They're probably more on the positive side than on the negative side. Because if someone tells you they play StarCraft in 2022, you probably assume they're a massive nerd, right? But for the people that are familiar with the game, there's also like a, like especially with like StarCraft 1, there's almost like an aura of, whoa, if you still play StarCraft 1, a game from 1998 in the year 2022, you must, you know, be an actual Giga Chat, right?
Whether you think all Protoss players have no skill,
it doesn't take anything.
Or all Yasuo players can't end the game below 10 deaths.
What does this mean?
The easy part.
Games can even hold stereotypes within themselves about different aspects within the game. These can be based entirely on what character you play, or even what playstyle you may employ. But what's important is how stereotypes are widely held and oversimplified. This view, which is from the outside of a group, can have much more influence on the group than its members may even realize. The view of StarCraft 2 being touted as such a difficult game has propelled it and its players into legend. But I feel that it may have been at the cost of much of the potential player base. Don't get me wrong, StarCraft 2
not
is
legends,
not an
dude.
easy game.
Bro, I am literally...
Subscriber detected.
I remember this. Don't point that arrow at me. I'm right over here somewhere, okay? They gave me a press badge. I'm right over there, right in front of...
Game to get into.
No! Ooh, close.
If you're looking to get into the competitive side. But the problem is that the perception of StarCraft was built from the competitive side. Most people probably don't know StarCraft as the game with cool user-generated content and a fun campaign, but instead know it for the hardcore competitive minority.
Hey! I know that guy. I know that guy too. The other guy.
Are you, like, in general happy with the way co-op has been going so far, like, say, compared to the multiplayer? Because for a while I heard there's a lot of people that go from, like, say, campaign and then they try some co-op and maybe eventually some multiplayer. But in general, are you happy with, like, the amount of players that you see in
Tremendously happy. We see about 80% of the people that love the campaign, and only 20% stick around for the hardcore multiplayer. I mean,
It's Quinn over there in the background. This was at Gamescom, actually. This was such a fun event. Gamescom, we used to go there, and like Blizzard would invite a bunch of streamers to come basically stream from the venue. I think this was the first year we did it. They improved the setup a little bit as the years went by, but yeah, they sadly don't do this anymore.
really hardcore engaged
Oh, is
competitive players.
that like 80 to 20?
Yeah, it
That's-
drops like
okay.
that. So, you know, for a long time we've been saying, how do we help these people stick around? Because they obviously love the game. They're
Yep, that's right. It's a known fact that many, if not most players that pick up StarCraft may never even play a single ladder game. So many people only see StarCraft as the hyper-competitive 1v1 that we all know and love, but they miss out on the most amazing content in gaming. Some of the most currently popular genres of games, like MOBAs and tower defenses, can trace their roots all the way back to StarCraft and Warcraft user-generated maps. And my fondest memories playing StarCraft is from running through the campaigns for the first time, and spending hours discovering the most amazing and creative arcade maps I've ever seen. Not the years I spent grinding ladder and competing in tournaments.
So there's a very small group of people that play StarCraft 2 that actually play 1v1. Maybe percent-wise, like it's bigger in 2022 than it was like, 5 years ago, just because the guys that tend to stick around are the ones that play 1v1. But there's plenty of people that just, play the game more casually. This still doesn't answer why the StarCraft community kills every new RTS game, though.
In my foray into collegiate esports as the founder of StarCraft at UVA, interacting with other players from different games is just saddening. Whenever I told people that I played StarCraft, they had usually heard of it, but then I'm always met with the same, "Oh damn, you played that game? That's crazy, I could just never get into it, it's too hard for me." So then I respond with, "Why not, you stupid bastard?" The more times that
There are definitely stereotypes for every game. For example, when your best friend tells you that he's secretly been playing League of Legends for 3 weeks straight, what do you think? Yeah, there's definitely stereotypes. Yeah.
I was met with the same exact reaction of, "Wow, that's cool, but it's too hard for me," the more my pride of learning this difficult craft turned into dismay. I mean, how am I even supposed to build and maintain a thriving community when potential new members are just completely unwilling to even try the game? I fear that this perception is prevalent not only in the collegiate esports scene.
Dude, this is the story of my life right here. I think, honestly, a lot of this has to do with the way that the game has been marketed. I mean, obviously, right now, Blizzard doesn't do any marketing for StarCraft, and that image is what it is, right? But yeah, they definitely did set this up as like the most competitive 1v1. I believe that was like their tagline back in the day as well. And that was what they communicated primarily. There is obviously a lot more to StarCraft than just the 1v1 aspect. It's also to do, though, with the fact that like StarCraft in general doesn't really have any social features in the game. Like, it took years for chat channels to be added, for clans to be part of it, and all that sort of thing, Like, StarCraft is not a social game. And then, to top it all off, right? StarCraft is already a very lonely game, especially if you play 1 versus 1 on the ladder. Like, half the guys you go up against on the ladder play under a barcode nickname. So they're even more anonymous, and it's even more of a lonely experience than it already is. So, yeah, I think it's partially due to the image, but also the way that the game has been set up. It's not ideal. Like, we have a thriving community here, for example, like on my channel. There's a lot of people that come hang out, right? There's a lot of people on the YouTube channel as well. But the majority of the StarCraft community doesn't happen in the game. It happens like, outside of the game. Be it YouTube, Twitch, Reddit, Team Link, whatever, right? StarCraft Battle.net forums, the happiest place on Earth. But there's places where that, like, community feel exists, but it's really not within the game.
There are many games which are as difficult as StarCraft, whether we like to believe it or not, that don't...
What did you say? Hold up.
There are many games which are as difficult as StarCraft.
There are many games as difficult as StarCraft. Like what? Like what?
That don't suffer the same kind of stigma. Games like League of Legends have little issue attracting
Are you suggesting League of Legends is as difficult as StarCraft?
players because you can just play some casual games with your friends, despite having more champions than units and buildings in StarCraft 2 combined. Each champion with 4 abilities, a unique passive, and different item builds depending
We have
on...
MOBA units in StarCraft, like the Ghost.
Or you could try playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with 89 characters that all have different moves, different weight properties, fall speed, frame data, air acceleration, walk speed, jump height. And this is Stereotypes as the casual party game of the fighting game community. Just because games are complex and have lots of information to know with high mechanical skill ceilings does not necessarily mean that they should have this aura of higher being, where people are even afraid to touch the game.
I think it's mostly due to the fact that you can play 100 hours of StarCraft 2 and still not make it out of Gold League, right? That is not uncommon. Whereas if you play 100 hours of one champion in League of Legends, maybe you're not better than Gold League, but you feel like you're at least Masters. Maybe you're ready to be invited to the Worlds. A lot of it has to do with how you feel about your own abilities and what your actual abilities are. In a team game, I think you can shift a lot of the blame as to why you're losing to your allies. So say you're playing a game of Dota. Maybe you're not doing amazing, but you're definitely doing better than your teammates, right? Like, I guess you judge yourself by your intentions and others by their actions. And in a game of StarCraft, you meet yourself, right? Like, you see very quickly how well you're doing. You can maybe start off following Cyril's build order, but if you haven't played it for at least 100 hours, you'll probably fail within 2 minutes. And obviously, at that point, you can blame balance, you can blame maps, you can do whatever. But as soon as you start comparing any of the stats, it's very obvious that you are not Cyril. Whereas after, like, playing, like, 100 hours of the hero that Faker likes to play a lot, you probably think you could go toe-to-toe with them.
It is possible to have a complex and difficult game that's also widely successful and popular. I mean, chess is one of the most classically competitive 1v1 games out there, and yet its ease of access...
Yeah, it's the... I'm describing the Dunning-Kruger effect. 100%. The Dunning-Kruger effect is... That's what I'm trying to say with too many words. Here we go. This is very applicable, I think, to a lot of competition, but especially for competitive gaming. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias whereby people with a low ability, expertise, or experience regarding a certain type of task tend to overestimate their ability or knowledge. Maybe you've only watched StarCraft 2, but if you were to play, right, if you actually tried, you would definitely be Grandmaster, right? Whereas, yeah, as soon as you give it a try, it's kind of tricky.
Access and popularity are second to none. And I think this is the most important lesson that new RTS developers seem to have taken to heart. Throughout every interview I've seen of Frost Giant, what's always emphasized is the player pathway. There is a clearly defined way for new players to get into the game.
We feel like part of the variety and the key ingredients that make a lot of other genres such as MOBAs, Battle Royales, Roblox, for example, very part of those ingredients that make it very successful is the virality of it and the social aspect. And we learned a lot of those lessons as well from the introduction of the co-op mode.
I've also directly referenced Immortal Gates of Pyre articles in my previous videos, as they too have a deep understanding of how to play the casual competitive skill balance. So if what seems to be the next generation of this genre is to succeed, we need to change the culture around it coming into the new era of RTS games. I mean, is the unit padding going to be important? Yes. Is the balance between team and 1v1 game modes going to be important? Of course. But if these games are trying to propel RTS into the mainstream and usher in the era where #RTS returns, then the community is going to need a dramatic shift in perspective. These new games are giving us the tools to do so, but it's going to be up to us to change the culture around RTS by welcoming new players and getting people into our craft. If we continue to maintain this perception of RTS being a difficult genre, which in my experience tends to be less welcoming to new players, then we will continue to be forever stuck as a small, dedicated, but ever stagnating community. But I mean, as a Grandmaster StarCraft 2 player myself, I really hope that the macro mechanic...
I've been in the StarCraft community for a long time, man. Maybe I don't visit the right forums, but I feel like the StarCraft community is very welcoming. Right? Am I mistaken? Are there, like, it's definitely a niche, but the majority of people that I know that still watch and play StarCraft have been doing it for like a decade, some even for 2 decades. And they tend to be very nice people. So why the StarCraft community kills every new RTS game? I don't know. Didn't get an answer. I feel like this is, not answering the clickbait. Now, obviously what he's talking about is the superiority complex that a lot of StarCraft players have, right? And I think that's, you know, there's definitely a little bit of truth in there. So when you ask, like, StarCraft players what their favorite game is, they will tell you that it's StarCraft. If you ask League of Legends players whether or not they like the game, they tell you the game sucks. Which is weird. Like, League players all tell me they hate playing League, yet they still play League. I'm not sure, like, I don't know which of the two is better, man. It doesn't sound like a very specific StarCraft community-related problem. It sounds like elitism within, you know, any community, be it StarCraft, be it a video game, be it whatever. But, like, there's elitism in every community, right? And especially for something that's been as long-running as StarCraft, maybe that percentage of people is slightly higher. But I don't think it's fair to say that the StarCraft community is not welcoming. But maybe that's because I'm mostly on my own channels and I see a lot of positivity. So, you know, that could be. But, yeah. I think overall this video makes some pretty decent points. But not really the point that the title seems to suggest. Clickbait successful though, because we watched the whole thing. Well done. This guy's playing the YouTube game like a champ. Love that.